Okay. All right, welcome everyone to the second paper session for ICTD 2020. We have another 4 papers here. So presenters will speak for approximately 10 to 12 minutes, and then we'll have about 5 minutes of Q&A after each of the presentations. I'm going to request that, as Jonathan did in the previous session, that audience members hold their questions until the end of a presentation, unless there's some technical difficulty or some very burning clarification. And then you can feel free to write the question in the chat or use the hand raise functionality, and I'll unmute the person and kind of go in the order received during the Q&A. And I think that's about it. So I think we're ready to jump to our first presentation, which will be by Faheem Hossain. He's coming from Arizona State University and will be presenting on oh boy, the first word's tripping me up. Infrastructuring Hope, Solidarity, Leadership, Negotiation, and ICT among Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. Okay, Faheem, over to you.
Can you see my slides? Yeah? No?
No, we see you.
No, we don't see your slides.
Okay. What happened? That's interesting. Just bear with me on this. This was working.
Yay, perfect.
Okay, we do have a very bad 10-minute version, but I don't want to share that with you guys. I want to talk to you guys in person. So let's see how it goes. Okay, are we good? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So thank you so much. Actually, so I think we first got successful. Now my window is closed. So we first got successful in making a tongue twister, which is infrastructuring hope. So that was our first goal. The second is while we talk, you may see a 7-year-old coming in, and that's just part of the the Zoom package. So I do apologize for that. So the whole idea today is not to talk a lot about theory and talk about one of the most persecuted population in the world right now, which is the Rohingyas, and to see and to reflect and to share some of our stories in the last 2.5 years that our research group has been working on. If you have any hard questions, I think Ishtiaque is here. You can give all the praises to me and hard questions to him. And not the other way around. So, the Rohingyas are originally from Myanmar. Many of you may know, and for the last several decades, they have been confined, unfortunately, in their own countries, in their own villages, in open-air prisons. They did not have rights for citizenship, rights to access resources, even have rights to access and use smartphones. But things have escalated and got worse in around mid-2017-ish, when the thing is there had been some pre-planned ethnic cleansing, and that really actually forced majority of the Rohingyas to actually flee their hometowns and their villages, and then left for Bangladesh for survival. You see in one of those images, this is the Naf River that actually is the border between Myanmar and Bangladesh, and the smoke is from the villages that's burning. It's their village burned by their own army, and they are actually fleeing to survive, to save themselves to Bangladesh. And as a result, what happened in the last 2.5 years, they kind of established the biggest refugee camp in the world, with 1.3 million refugees, and it's in the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh. And we have been working there for quite some time with our local partners there. Fortunately, we have a very good presence in terms of the root level local organizations, and also when it comes to the refugee population themselves. So, 1.3 million population, majority of the people we're looking into are women, 55% are children. And then what we're looking into is a lot of people within our majority of them are actually suffering from PTSD and some sort of a huge trauma. And when they first started coming in, when I was first there in 2007, October, and the people were still coming in, and many of them had physical injuries. Most of them also have mental traumas. So that's the population has been suffering for decades, and that's part of, unfortunately, their culture and survival, how they're coping things. So in this context, what we are trying to look into is to see how the Rohingyas themselves, amid all the challenges, are using ICT. The ICTs of the different digital platforms as a beacon of hope, and how they're creating different artifacts, how they're innovating things and creating their own spaces within the digital realm to have a hope to move forward. And while doing so, not actually compromising many of their own culture. And there are some fascinating stories to tell, fascinating stories to share in terms of to show their resilience, the human story of this. But at the same time, our goal is that while doing so, whether or not we can use hope as a theoretical framework for explaining or imagining things in a different lens for other displaced communities. So if we took a very short deep dive, the crisis of the Rohingyas and they have so many crises, but if we just focus on digital space, the first and foremost, as I said before, in Myanmar, they were worse off when it comes to access to mobile phones and everything. They were physically and monetarily being punished if they had access to smartphones and whatnot. Now in Bangladesh, things didn't improve that much, unfortunately, because here the government, the host government actually did not allow them to have access to legal access to phones, legal access to have internet, because in Bangladesh under the law, they need biometric IDs, legal biometric IDs to have access to any SIM cards, which the biometric IDs, that's one of the identities that the issues that they had, they didn't have any. So that kind of resulted in, does it mean that they were not connected? No. They were connected. In the refugee camps of this 1 million plus population, the connections are very poor. The quality of service is sometimes it's appalling. But even after that, they have been using, they have been creating, they have been present in the digital space. There have been huge market of SIM cards which are not legal. And then there are so many other stories that they've been talking about, also the stories of exploitation, stories of discrimination in the digital space that has been happening. And while we talk about these things, while we are sharing these things, we also need to understand that Rohingyas do not have alphabets. They do not have scripts. That's one of the when we started looking into things, when we started doing our ethnographies, FGDs and whatnot, it was one of the things that totally actually at least shook me to the core, because then we're looking into how are they going to create the artifacts, digital artifacts, how are they going to create the culture, how are they going to maintain their culture, keep it. And so those are the things that came into our mind when we were dealing with this population. Now, so that's where we are coming from, this infrastructure and hope. What are the workarounds? What are the innovations? What are the negotiations that are looking into? So these are some of the images we took of aspirations, resilience, and coming around within the campaign. So when we are looking into this whole situation and what we have been feeling, and we've been talking about that their way of going forward, of hoping for a better future, what are the main criteria, what are the lenses they're looking into? So, and based on our understanding of previous literature and under our understanding of the field, we have been we decided on to look into three lenses specifically that kind of build up to the hope creation. One is solidarity, then leadership, and negotiation. And they kind of overlap each other when it comes to, in the real world, how we are dealing things and whatnot. So when we talk about solidarity, and this is one of the things, what we have seen, it played one of the most important role in the life of the Rohingyas. Solidarity in terms of among their fellow Rohingyas, their fellow refugees, solidarity with the host communities, solidarity specifically also with the technology itself. Because such kind of understanding, such kind of idea, and the status quo can help the ICT designers to better create technology-mediated community or the peer-supported groups. That's what we have seen. And then the other things, and I will come back to this set of pictures. Then what we have also seen is the leadership. Beyond the solidarity, what we have also seen is there are different kind of community leaders that have been sprung up, not being imposed by the donor communities, but the communities, they are creating some of these major leadership and taking things in their own hand. And while we are looking into one perspective of solidifying things and being inclusive, but at the same time, such kind of input, such kind of leadership also helps in the design phase to create some appropriate stuff. So for example, here, what we are looking into is on the top side, top right side, we are seeing a feature phone, non-smartphone with dual SIMs. One SIM they're using to actually communicate with the Rohingya communities and to some extent the Burmese communities that they left in Myanmar. And then the other SIM they're using, and this is illegal, they're using to communicate with the community here, like community in Bangladesh. Then on the bottom right, we're looking into the public service announcements things that's happening with the makeshift mosque. They had this amazing network of makeshift mosques within the refugee camp. And they had the huge higher level of acceptability when it comes to the information, the level of information that's coming within the camps in terms of whether it's a fake news or not. And then you also have on the left, you have this young guy, he's actually a leader. They are called Majis, and they are being selected by the community. And if there is no digitization of the record of the people, they're actually using the traditional book ledgers to get hold of the identities and the number of families which they are under their responsibility. While there are some low-tech solutions, they're also looking into for their presence online. They have Rohingya Vision, they have Arakan TV. Some of the things they are actually doing it in coordination, in solidarity with the expat Rohingyas who are based in Malaysia, who are based in Middle East, who are based in Europe. So there's a even with the challenges of the connectivity, they are actually doing a lot in terms of coordination to get their voices heard. And eventually what we have looking into is the negotiation part of it, because that has been an essential part of the Rohingyas for their survival, for their innovations, for thriving as a community. Let me see. So that's one of the magical places for us as researchers when we have we were there. On the bottom right, you see this is charging stations where you have because there's no grid, there's no electricity, and then how they're going to charge their phones. Phone are their lifelines, no matter whether it's banned or not, and how they're doing it. The solar panel doesn't work during the monsoon season and some other places. So they have regulated, they have actually standardized the way things are going to be charged and how much they are going to pay for it. And if you see also beyond this charging station on the right side, they have a stack of papers. And they're using it to print images. They're using it to print wedding cards. So it's more like a makeshift version of a telecenter, but something beyond that gives us actually them to continue the work, continue the life and whatnot. But the main magic, in our opinion, happens on the left side in the laptops, if you see. And in the laptops, these are disconnected laptops. These are the mobile repair shops and the recharge shops. And this is where we see within the hard drives, there are so many contents in terms of the movies, from the Hollywood, from the Bollywood, some of the dubbed versions of it. And because Rohingyas do not have the audiovisual content of their own. And then they also have religious sermons. They have adult entertainment. They have actually, unfortunately, the recruiting videos from different extremists.
Faheem, you've got about 1 minute left. Sorry to interrupt.
So that's one of the things that what we have looked into that totally fascinated us to see how they are actually negotiating and how they're evolving when it comes to access to information. And many of these content are being recorded and refreshed based on the demand of the market. And the final picture, because we don't have much time, is these amazing ladies. On the back side, you see the sewing machines. They actually are not interested to train with this because they are very much interested to know how to repair mobile phones because they have been ostracized. They have been excluded from the mobile repair and the access of the recharge shops led by the patriarchy. So they also want to take charge of their own thing. So Rohingyas' hope and aspirations when it comes to this and their ideas, and this is one of the things that they just send us, how they're also negotiating with the COVID crisis right now. So what we are looking into is how these, beyond the specialized education and so many other experts, how these local experts are improvising, innovating, and showing resilience through ICT. That's one of the fascinating things that we want to show further, look further, explore further. And then based on this understanding and learning, the whole idea of us is to actually push this whole framework to other displaced communities. I do apologize for running over time, but that's pretty much it for now.
Okay, thanks very much, Faheem. So I think we have time for maybe one quick question, if there's a question out there. I have one quick one, Faheem. So you jumped through a slide quickly there about COVID-19, and you showed the women and the phone repair and everything. And I'm curious how COVID-19 is kind of affecting some of these interactions and roles and everything.
So first of all, there's a huge failure when it comes to the messages that they have been receiving from WHO or any other donor agencies of social distancing, washing hands and everything. It's kind of sad to tell somebody when you don't have in the camps running waters or do social distancing in a place where it's so jam-packed. But within them, what we are looking into as we are in touch with Rohingya Students Network and whatnot, they're saying that we are trying to do our best and trying to customize the messages based on our expertise and the expertise of the host community. And they're not waiting for anybody. They're customizing the messages, translating it. And as I said, they do not have the alphabets and scripts. So they're doing the audio video version of it. And they're just reaching out to the different communities using their smartphones and the feature phones.
That's great. Okay, thanks very much, Faheem.